Under what circumstances should the city give financial incentives to attract or retain businesses?
I agree with what Chip said, that, the bottom line is looking at the end product. But first, these businesses should hire locally and use our local unions when building. And secondly, the jobs should be full-time employment that pay living wage and bring about economic growth to the city. So incentives should be only considered case by case, as said before, and we should be mindful of the type of business that it is.
And Donna Boelen.
I think we should look at each case individually and determine which tool to use based on that. There is one particular point that should be taken into consideration, and that is whether or not it's a base business, meaning something like Rivian or what Mitsubishi was, that can then support non-base businesses. And a non-base business would be something like a Portillo's. So first we bring in the upper level business that will provide jobs at a high level, and then support will come from the lower level businesses.
Under what circumstances would you consider approving city use of eminent domain power or the taking of land from private owners to foster development or revitalization?
Well, across the board, we're all saying the same thing, basically, about the being eminent domain should be our last resort. And it is something that we do need to tread lightly on, because like Chip said, taking private property for public use, it's critical. It's kind of a, you got to walk, I guess, all softly, and when it...
Go ahead.
When it comes to to the downtown area, I'm very I love downtown, and I think that we are dragging our feet when it comes to using the eminent domain for that particular reason. I believe that that area has been sitting there unused for years and years, and I think that we need to come to the table with the owner and see what can be done at that point.
For listeners' benefit, and on the radio, that was the screen behind the candidates going up, and I think Georgene deserves a 20-second bonus on that, actually. But Donna Boelen, what is your answer?
Well, it is a tool in the toolbox. It is legal, but I am not supportive of taking private property for economic development purposes.
What should the city do to encourage downtown revitalization and increase occupancy in vacant property? And this question comes from Greg Coos of Bloomington.
I agree with Ms. Emick that, looking at the downtown comprehensive plan is the first place we should start. It was put together for a particular reason, and that should be our guideline. And we should be working hard to allow our downtown to shine. And when I go down there, I'm down there a lot, and when I go down there, I'm seeing overflowing of garbage. I see lighting out. I see all kind of things, and I think we should work hard at loving our downtown and letting it, like I said, shine. And I don't think that we do that.
Donna Boelen, Greg Coos' question on increasing occupancy and revitalizing the downtown.
Well, actually, currently there are several businesses that are investing. The ice cream shop, I'd like to go visit there. And I think that that's actually the best The best way to develop the downtown is with small businesses investing and risking their own money, that it goes incrementally and organically, slowly. I'm not sure that the city should invest any money other than in infrastructure, enforcing codes, which would help with keeping the downtown clean. And, of course, if the garbage cans are full, I think that one of the business owners could call the city and say, please empty the garbage. I don't think that the complaining is going to solve anything.
The city is considering whether to increase the local gas tax from 4 to 8 cents per gallon. Where do you stand and why?
Well, There's no good answer for this question. However, I would rather look at other ways. But we are in dire need of repairing our roads and sidewalks, and therefore it must be done because the money that we have been bringing in it has kept us flat. And so we must do more than just the minimum, and to do that, we need to increase the fuel tax at this time. The revenue will bring in $2.3 million, as Chip said, and will help get us ahead of the curve. I agree with the city manager that seeing how the money is spent will help our citizens better understand the process.
Donna Boelen, what's your take on the gas tax?
I'm not in favor of raising the gas tax again. We do have a reserve right now, which I think is the first time in many years. I think we can pull that $2.3 million out of the reserve to cover the road repair and resurfacing. The city council is a policy maker, and the way I look at it is that if we are going to fund the roads with the same as an enterprise fund, we should do that across the board, which means Parks and Rec should be like an enterprise fund. All of the programs should be cost neutral, and that's not true. So I think that we need to focus on the basic role of government and take care of infrastructure and use the money that we have in reserve.
Figures from that committee of the whole meeting referenced by the candidates suggest Bloomington would have to increase the amount of money spent on streets and sidewalks by about $2 million a year to stay even on the quality of streets. Streets are currently rated an average of 6 out of 10 on a 10-point scale. What should the policy goal be? 7, 8, 9, 5? You pick and tell us how we get there at $2.5 million a year to nudge it just a bit. And let's talk with Georgene Chissell first in Ward 2.
Well, the city has been looking at the budget, and they've been cutting and moving things around to make it a balanced budget. So Donna mentioned that there is a reserve. And so maybe looking at that, at somehow trying to get some of that, move some of that money in, so we can be able to use that and have our money, have our cushion, I guess, yearly. And so, I guess that's it.
Donna Boelen.
Well, currently we use 1/4% tax, sales tax, for the roads, which generates approximately $2 million. And then we have the gas tax, 4 cents, that generates $2 million. I personally think that routinely $2 million should be set aside out of the general fund for roads resurfacing, which would keep it at 6. We could do 2.5 for each and keep it, at 8. One thing of making, if 2/3 of the road surfacing budget is based on motor fuel tax legally can be spent on anything related to transportation. So some council down the road can all of a sudden decide we're not going to spend it on resurfacing, we're going to spend it on some other type of transportation.
The Illinois General Assembly might, in the coming months, legalize recreational marijuana and sports betting. Municipalities are expected to have some measure of control over what's permitted locally. How permissive or restricted should the city be if both marijuana and sports betting become legalized in the coming year? And Donna Boelen, you are first.
Oh my. We're sitting in ISU and we're talking about marijuana. I have a medical background, so I understand for medical reasons. I'm not a prude, but I think that we need to listen to the doctors. I think we need to listen to police and have their input and the research that's been done. I have nothing against it in a moral sense, just in a practical and health sense. And the sports betting, to me, it's a form of recreation. But we're having a discussion currently about the moratorium for the video gambling. So, is gambling an issue morally?
Well, as we all are saying the same thing, again, if the state passes the law for legalizing marijuana, then we should embrace it and look at it as a type of a revenue. However, I'm as Donna mentioned before, I look at it as a way for people that medically need it. And so then we have to look at regulating it and things of that sort and taxing it and like Chip said, the governor's already he's looking at all of these things and looking at the state at bringing the people together to talk about it and break it down and make sure that at our levels that we're able to use that revenue for good. And the same thing for the video gaming. I think it should be regulated at some point, and I don't see it as a moral issue at this point.
Georgene Chissell in Ward 2, how should the city work to mitigate the affordable housing deficit?
Well, first of all, as a single parent, my husband was killed years ago, and so I raised my children by myself and used the church and the men in the church as mentors for my son. And so I struggled throughout the years being by myself, raising the children, to keep a roof over my family's head and to find a job paying a living wage that I could afford housing. It's just hard. And you have to look at the people who own these apartments. They're not taking care of them properly. They're not, they constantly going up on the rent, and people can't keep up with that increase in that in the rent. They, like somebody said down here that, forgot my chain of thought. I'm sorry. I think as we look at things, we have to sit down at the table and bring people together. Bottom line.
Thank you, Georgene. Donna Boelen.
Well, first of all, affordable housing, I don't believe, is a static thing. I think that any one of us in this room at any point in time can be in a situation where we cannot afford to live where we're living. A health issue could drain you financially. So we have to view it as organic, moving, and changing. Our zones and codes are enforced. We have inspectors. That's what the city job is. I have spoken many, many times about lowering taxes, keeping them. That will keep housing affordable. Unfortunately, locally, we are struggling with jobs. Job growth locally has only been less than 1% for years. So we need to make a real effort to bring in those base businesses.
What do you think should be done about or with or to the arena?
Well, the first thing that I think of is we need to think about selling it. And a lot of people say nobody wants to buy it, but we said the same thing about the State Farm Fire Building as well. And look, someone's looking at that, to purchase. And so, and Reverend, the same thing with Mitsubishi, same thing. So you never know who's looking for what out there. So we just have to put it out there. But that's my take on it.
Donna Boelen.
Well, first, I don't recall anyone ever saying that it was a mistake. So that, did someone say it was a mistake? It was a mistake. It was a mistake to build. It was a costly mistake. No one seemed to listen to the people that live in the city. So I would I'm being facetious here, I would shut it down and put it out to the community to ask what they want, and any viable or reasonable suggestion should be put on the table for consideration.
So I'll follow up with you. So the city should just absorb the debt service on this without trying to gain any revenue from it until it finds a way to dispose of it.
We are not gaining revenue. We are losing money. So, in a sense, it would be better to close the doors, turn off the lights, turn off the heat.
You can't do that, though, because the facility will deteriorate. You have to have something going, and so it will continue to be a drain.
It will always continue to be a drain, even if it's open, because the operational expenses are well over $500,000 annually.